Appreciate your time, Frank. This gentleman has done wonders for sim racing, the real world racers that come into sim racing or go back and forth. Frank's responsible to get some guys out on track. So without further ado, Mr. Frank Swartz, Grass Paddock Motorsports, tell us what you do.
What do we call this thing? The Raycing Line. I'm all out of sync. We got more people to deal with this week than what I'm used to. So thanks to my co-host Jason for joining us. Adam's back this week, and as you can see, we got a fourth sitting here. Megan Oversheet is already joining us to help us do some reviews and stuff. So thank you, Megan.
Let's go, Megan.
And help us. Good evening, Greg.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, we're just getting ready to review the spec racers, and since we had an announcer in the waiting room, we thought we'd go ahead and bring you in.
Well, thank you very much.
There he is.
Hey, we got him.
Hey, Jason, we got you this time.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
We won't talk about the other.
Our special guest for the evening, Mr. Dave Ogburn, and for Dave to introduce you to these two knuckleheads, you got.
Great to see you, Thor. Welcome to the fourth chair and the podcast this week.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It feels surreal, like finally being able to talk to you guys. You know, I've been in this league for like 2-3 years, and yeah, finally face to face.
Yes, our first guest.
Jeff.
Put you on the spot now, Jeff. Oh. So, welcome, Mr. Jeff Jacobson. Again. Great to have you here. Thanks for taking some time out to join us. We get to some fun part. That's why you're here, Jerry. This is our guest segment after the reviews. So thanks for sitting through with us. And
that was fun.
And
thanks.
Yeah, it's some good racing. So, well, first of all, we gotta say thank you to Trenton for taking time to come join us. He's one of the hardest working guys I know, and you can look there in the shop behind him and get an idea of what he does. So, as everybody sees, we've got Darren Ganji, and if you didn't know already, he is Mr. Sim Motion, where you can get all your sim rigs and equipment and everything. He's also the sponsor of that league we were just talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Sean Ambrose, we go back forever, back to the very early beginning days of the Weekend Warriors, when it was broadcasted on another broadcast, GSRC, I don't mind saying it. Very good to us. And Sean was one of the producers, announcers, always great to talk with.
So, Mr. Edgar Sancinelli, Weekend Warrior, Frito Sport Racing. I don't know what all you do, but great to have you join us tonight, Edgar.
Yes.
I'm not saying shit. Oh, see, I literally. Whatever, I give up.
There you go.
I know you've had a mute from me. So,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, when you
yeah.
for the views when Adam and you were there. I mean, it's jeez.
Oh yeah.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Racing Line. I think this is 34, if I remember right. So
Yeah, we are.
we're getting up there.
We are.
That's what,
Kind of like you, Stevie.
Already. Yeah. Yeah. Never catch up to me, but we're getting there. Already see some of our group in the chat. Brian, Jake, good to see everybody. Adam's with us tonight. Not doing daddy duty at the moment, but I expect that will come in.
Don't say that. Don't, Stevie. You just jinxed it, man. You just jinxed it.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. And we've got our special guest for the evening, Mr. Jake Schilling, joining us. So good to see you,
Thanks
bud.
for having me.
Welcome to the firing line here. Tonight's going to be a little different. You see, we don't have JG2, and he's taking a little break. He's had so much going on. He's just got to get some JG time. So we don't have our highlights as we usually do. And I'll throw it out there now. If anybody wants to step up and likes to do that, let me know. And we'll get you on here and get some highlights from the weekend. So, hey, Jim, good to see you, bud. I think about all we can do then is go into our championship points, and there we go. The V's last week, where were we at? I'd have to pull up my schedule. I don't even remember where they were.
Yeah, see, I'm a really good co-host here, Stevie, because I don't know that either. Yeah. But
Jim
yeah.
can tell us where was the V's last week, Jim? I know the Formula Fords were at. Come on, I just raced it. Scotland.
Yeah.
V's were at VIR North, I think. So
there you go. So yeah, you can see you can see how all that went there. The points at the top there. Nate and Jason are now only separated by 2, which is insane. I guess it's still kind of early in the season. What is that? After round 5, so you still have 7 more races, right? 7 or 8?
Yep.
So you got 7 more races to do, but that's going to be a super tight battle between Jason and Nate Coliseo. Ethan Orr sitting back there in 4th place overall at 337. Joshua Flores, Chris Shriven, and Michelle Lynn. Look at that spec, too.
That is tight.
That is extremely tight. 8th, 10th, and 12th overall. So, and then Jim over here in the chat saying he was tied for 2nd overall before his dope. But you're still 3rd overall, Jim, which is very impressive. 359 points for the Masters class. Kurt Nunez, 4th overall in the Masters class at something's going on there.
Something's wrong there.
But Kurt Nunez with 323 and Nick Tullo down there with 291 rounds out your Masters division as well. But keep an eye, guys. If you guys don't watch these Formula V races on slow motion broadcasting, you really should, because it's going to be super tight, I think. I mean, between S1 and S2, Masters is starting to get away from Kurt a little bit. Jim's starting to take off. But yeah, between that S1 and that S2 battle, which is probably the coolest battles to see, because you've got S1 drivers and S2 drivers. There are some pretty quick S2 drivers in all 3 of these leagues, but they are cutting it up with those S1 guys, and it creates a bit of animosity from time to time, which is awesome for a broadcast. So, yeah.
Yes, the V's have some of the best side-by-side strategy. I can't even say it. Strategic racing going. So, on his first, congrats to Jim on his first Thompson.
No, he didn't. Jim.
I think I know what Jim did.
Oh, no. Oh no. Okay, Jim, we're gonna have to talk about that. I can tell you how not to do that ever again, if you want that. But it's now the Thompson, Brewster, and Lynn Trophy. It sounds like so. Yeah. That's awesome. Keep an eye out on that Formula V battle for the rest of the season there. But Felix Simoes and the Formula Fords, where they were at, where were they?
Scotland. Oh, come on.
Pretty big place, Stevie.
Come on. Yeah, it wasn't even raining.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's impressive. But Felix Simoes up there, 423 points. Trenton Kramer, Sean Doyle round out your top 3. They're separated a little bit more than I would expect for the V's to be. But Dan Witzak pulling away in Spec 2 from Dustin Meaden and Fernando Afonso. That's still a pretty close battle between second and third in the points. Knock Hill is where they were. Jeff Wubker, Antonio Reese. That's a battle that is probably going to heat up moving forward into this season. Jim Brewster, again, he's on this standings chart twice now, Stevie. Jim, you retire, you get faster, clearly is what's happening here. So congrats to Jim Brewster being there in third place in the Masters and the Formula Fords. And then the Spec Racers. Yep, Antonio. Yeah, you Antonio. Yeah, that Antonio Race right there.
He wasn't. I don't think he was in the Formula Fords, but he's still hanging tight in the points.
He is. So there you go, Antonio. You are still hanging tight in the points, so you might want to show up in the Formula Fords again, buddy. Mauricio Nizelli, 485 points, freaking flying right now. Jason Green again in second place. He's holding second place, pretty firm there from Felix Samoa, which is impressive because I know how fast Felix is. Jason and Felix go back and forth quite a bit. So that is. And
I can tell you, I remember setting up the points. Maurizio and Jason have 5 races now, and Felix only has 4.
Okay.
So if you add another 90 points or so to Felix, he's right in the middle of that.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's going to be an awesome battle to see shape up, and I hope to be one that I'm involved in more now that my freaking I love you guys. If my family watches this, Sarah's side, my side, I love you guys to death, but leave me alone, please. Now that they're gone, I should be able to get a few more races in over the weekends. Eric Luke there in Spec 2 right now, 301 points with Matt Thompson, my man, with 232, and Leonard Geese is starting to close that gap a little bit between himself and Matt Thompson.
He popped up on the chart today.
Yeah, that's impressive.
I can tell you, Eric's already told me he almost feels a little guilty running away. He says, I will be in Spec 1 next season. So
okay. So
he's
because
made that commitment.
So we can talk about that real quick. So because Eric, this is his first season, you guys went off of the original thing that you guys do, correct? With the I rating.
If somebody comes in new, we have to go by I rating. That's the only way we do it. And then after a season, we've got that other chart that tells us the average running position.
Yep.
And the top, I think it's 21 from last season are in Spec 1 now in the SRFs, and I think it was a top 18 or 16 for the Formula Fords because they have a smaller grid. So it like we said before, it kind of fixes that problem of somebody never doing officials but having a skill level way up here. It puts them in the right group.
Absolutely. Tom Gradwell with 273, Brad Cathcart 255, and Kurt Nunez 251. That's close. That's really close, Stevie.
Yeah. Those 3, I think they were pretty much like that last season as well. So
right. Well, those are, believe it or not, we're done with that already.
Yeah.
So we can get straight into it. We've got a guest here. Hello, Mr. Jake.
Howdy, Adam.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. I like I mentioned earlier, it's warm in Wisconsin again, so
cool.
No longer frozen mornings.
For now, don't say that yet. It got cold. It's going to get cold here in Nevada, so it's probably going to get cold up there too.
Spring snowstorms can be the worst.
Exactly. Hey, Stevie, I've got I want to lead in real quick here. I've got a super important question to ask you, Jake.
Yep.
What's your favorite color?
What do you think it is?
Well, I saw your V is white, but it had a bunch of different colors on it. I'm gonna say blue.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, I'm done now, Stevie.
Well, Mr. Jake Schilling has been around the Ray Esports for a while. Ran the SCCA-based league. I had the pleasure of meeting you at the June Sprints.
Yep, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. So you were crewing with another one of our Ray Esports.
Yeah, it was with Caleb Patry.
Caleb Patry. So That was a fun weekend. It was great to meet up with you guys.
Yeah, no, it was definitely nice to actually put some faces to names
Yeah.
besides just on a computer screen. And that was definitely an eventful weekend to say the least,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
to
keep
say
it
the
short.
Those that don't know, Caleb had a brake failure coming down into turn 5 and went right through turn 5 and up over the barrier, and it was quite
Not good.
yeah, he was lucky to walk away.
Yeah.
So all right. So you just had a fun weekend, if I remember right. You have
Yes,
done
I did.
from sim racing to finally putting yourself out on the real track. So
Yes, I did.
tell us what you did, what happened.
Yeah, so kind of going back to your usual first question, sim racing.
Oh yeah, I see. I'm all out of sync.
So
How
I'm
did you
gonna
get started in sim racing? Let's back
so
up.
yeah, back up a little bit. So I got into sim racing kind of a roundabout way, but so going all the way back, yeah, I know I'm not that old, but going back to when I was very little kid. First racing game I ever played was on a Super Nintendo, SNES, was Nigel Mansell Grand Prix Racer. And we even had the special little controller with the steering wheel and the triggers and all that stuff on an old tube TV.
That
That
was
was my
my guy
first.
back in the day.
That was the first ever racing game I ever played. And then it kind of built off of that as I got older, and got different gaming systems into Gran Turismo, into eventually the older, I shouldn't say older, but PlayStation 2 generation F1 games. And then from there got into PS3, got into Project Cars, and I ran that for about a year and a half, I want to say, with just a old Logitech whatever, or no, excuse me, a Thrustmaster T150 wheel. Not
Okay.
even the very first actual force feedback wheel you could get in the Thrustmaster tier at the time. Ran that for about a year and a half, and then COVID hit and everything shut down. Except for real world racing. And I hadn't been to Road America in forever because I was a cyclist as a kid and growing up. So when I started getting into that full time, going to the racetrack kind of fell away, didn't get to do it a lot. So when COVID hit and there wasn't any more racing, I went to Road America and actually reconnected with a friend of mine that I had grown up in cycling with. And he was talking about iRacing and how much fun it was and everything else. And so that's how I got into iRacing, and have now fallen completely into the rabbit hole and have spent way too much money on computers and sim rigs. And you can see Sim Motion here. Just got that this year.
I think mine
And
here too. Yeah.
and then ever since then, it's just been a slow. I shouldn't say slow. It's been a rather rapid just descent into just full bore sim rig now, and just rebuilt my computer, and then the next upgrades eventually will be a new wheelbase and pedals now that I have a cockpit that can actually handle something more. But yeah, so that's how the whole sim racing thing came to be. And then the real world racing, that actually came about thanks to Caleb in a sense, because we were roommates at the time when I was working for him at June Sprints 2 years ago, and he bought his Acura, and kind of as a joke was like, hey, if you want to come to the races, if help out, whatever, you're more than welcome. And it kind of just spiraled into just you would go to a race, he needed some help, and I was there. So that got me involved with SCCA, and then after that first season with him racing, I ended up moving out of my place in Waukesha with him and moved in with my girlfriend. So, wasn't as involved with him. But then I started looking at doing the real world thing. And there is a Formula V shop down in Illinois, out of Washington, Illinois. Mark Richardson and Formula V Ingenuity. Brian will know that group very well. I reached out to him and just asked if I could crew for a couple of races last year, and he's like, "Yep, here's our schedule. Whatever races you can make it to, we're more than happy to have you." And that turned into a full season of crewing with them at Road America and Blackhawk. And then about halfway through the season last year, I started to actually look at things seriously about getting into the car. And then 2 weekends ago, it all finally came to be, and managed to go out to Blackhawk Farms and do my competition school and get my first regional race weekend in, which was not without its own entertaining hurdles, to say the least. But brought the car home in one piece. Everything, finished out well. Did very well in the school. Had a really good race on Sunday. Lost my race on Saturday due to a mechanical issue, but we found it on Sunday morning and remedied it, thankfully. And I'm looking forward to, as of right now, the next planned race is going to be up at Road America in August for the Kettle Divisionals. For me, for driving, and then I'll be crewing for them here. Not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, and then also at June Sprints, Cat Majors, and runoffs this year as well. So
2 questions for you here, real quick, Jake. I heard Waukesha, and
yep.
So you said you moved out of there. I've got a very close friend, an admin actually of mine, in XSLR from Waukesha, named Kevin Irwin. And he has just gotten himself a Miata, and he actually, I don't know, was there something going on in Waukesha like a couple weeks ago? He took his Miata, he took it to the drag strip down there. I don't know, it was a big car show or whatever. I don't know if you were a part of that, but
nah.
It sounds like Waukesha might be a bigger place than I think it is.
It's a decent. It's a college town.
Okay,
so it's a decent sized town. It's not a big city by any means. It's got big city feel to it when you're in downtown by the college. It's Carroll College there. It's a private school. So when you're in downtown, it's got a bit of a city feel to it. But once you get on the outskirts of it, it's you're
back into the
middle
country.
Middle of farmland, Wisconsin.
Yeah, sounds about right. Sounds about like
much around.
I mean, I tell everyone I'm from Terre Haute, Indiana. And the reason I tell everybody that is because when I say Paris, Illinois, nobody has any idea. And the only reason I say Terre Haute is Larry Bird. So I know that whole thing. I totally get it. When you get outside of the city limits, it turns into farmland. But second question, you mentioned it, you glossed over it. As an aircraft mechanic, I saw what happened this weekend with your mechanical issues. And let me tell you, I cringed when I found out that there was a bolt missing, not broken and removed, Stevie, missing from the gearbox.
The bolt was there.
Okay.
The nut was not.
Oh my God.
So and this is no blame on anybody. Obviously it's my first time driving the car. I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling or what I shouldn't be feeling beyond just obviously, are all the wheels there, like, or or the brakes working? Besides the basics of it, I don't know what the car is going to feel like. But anyway, so we get through the school on Friday. And we're on old scuffed tires, mind you, because we had a lot of track sessions, a lot of heat cycles. We weren't too concerned about outright pace. It was more just get through the school and don't be a idiot and do something stupid. And then going into Saturday, going into qualifying, not quite halfway through, I came into turn 7 at Blackhawk, which is the last corner. It's from the butt dyno, feels like it's the hardest braking zone on the track. It's the longest full throttle stretch leading into it. And in the V, as in sim racing, you only use 2 gears, 3rd and 4th. And you engine brake them pretty aggressively in real life. There's not a lot of rev matching going on. You kind of just hit the brakes, get it in gear, come off the clutch, and let the engine hold you down. Came out of the corner, got out to the rumbles, got on the gas, or was on the gas, got out to rumbles, and it popped out of 3rd. And RPM went to the sky, and I'm going, what the heck's going on? And of course, it was qualifying, so there's other cars on track, so immediately get the hand up in the air, let them know I'm slow, wait till they get by. I reach down and fiddle with the shifter, make sure everything's still there and connected, and put it in gear, and it goes in, and I'm like, all right, well, maybe I just made a mistake. No big deal. Go like another 1 or 2 laps or whatever, and then go into turn 3, which at Blackhawk is called the carousel because it looks like the carousel at Road America. It's a nice long sweeping right-hander. Going into the braking zone there, get on the brakes, grab clutch, put it in 3rd, come off the clutch, and immediately, boom, 3rd gear blows out again. So at that point, I bring it into the paddock, and we make an adjustment to the shift linkage because that's what we assumed it was. Go out, finish qualifying, no big deal. Go out in the race, does it again, and at this point, we're all scratching our heads, can't figure out what it is. And then Sunday morning, and this is interesting how we found it, and you'll probably appreciate this, Adam. We were doing a carburetor jet change, of all things.
Yep.
And in the process of it, Mark, the owner, was just looking at the car and just happened to notice these very, very bright silver aluminum shavings
Oh
on the
no.
back of the car. And he's like, well, that doesn't
not
look
good.
right. And
That's not
then he sees the bolt, and the bolt head, instead of being nice and flat on the transmission mount plate, if this is the bolt head, it was like that.
Oh yeah.
And that's when we're like, I don't think there's a nut back there. So I reach back, and sure enough, there's no nut there. And that was all I thought it was, mind you. I just thought it was a nut that was missing. Lo and behold, later on, after they fixed it, I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, those are some seriously long bolts with some beefy washers on them. What's going on? My dad goes, oh yeah, we don't know when it happened, but the bottom bolt hole, the flange on the transmission, had sheared off. So the whole back end of the transmission was just teeter-tottering about the front mounts. And so the reason I say that is, if you don't know, in a modern V and an SCCAV, the engine is not attached to the chassis in any way.
No,
it is bolted to the bell housing, and the transmission is what holds everything together.
That
so
is insane.
If you're missing 2 of your 4 bolts that hold the thing together, it kind of just becomes an automatic weight jacker, and anytime you get off throttle or on gas or whatever, it's gonna start sending you in all sorts of weird feedback. And of course, me being new to the car and not knowing what I should or shouldn't be feeling, in my head, I'm just thinking, I'm just pushing it too far, and the car doesn't like it, and I'll back it off and just I'll give the car what it'll take and leave it at that. So that was a bit of a roller coaster, to say the least, going through Saturday night, laying in bed, wondering, did I suddenly forget how to drive the car? Did I forget how to shift into third gear after a day of driving? So to find that, it was good to bump the confidence back up, but also then, talking with Mark, who's a phenomenal guy. I mean, he's probably forgotten more about V's than I'll even learn in my time driving them. But one of the lessons I got from that was trust my gut.
Right.
Regardless of how nervous I am, regardless of if I think it's stupid or silly, trust my gut. If I think something's wrong, or if I want something checked, just trust the gut, have it checked. Better to be safe than sorry. And, don't be afraid of sounding like a nagging kid.
Yeah.
If you're the driver, you're the one you're the one in the seat. And if you're not comfortable, we got to do something to make you comfortable.
Yeah.
So
it's life out there. So.
Exactly. But other than that, it was a pretty I shouldn't say uneventful, but other than that, the weekend was very smooth. We had a crack in the exhaust header on Friday that we caught early, but again, it's school day. We're not too worried about horsepower or speed. It was just, get it through the day without the crack getting too big, and then they were able to go and get it welded for Saturday for qualifying, and everything was good there.
You kind of mentioned some things about feeling the car and everything, and that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, how did that relate to the iRacing V and what you did there to the real world V? How did those two relate?
So it's weird. When I first started in the iRacing V, I didn't know how different it was and how similar it was at the same time. So the big things between the iRacing V and the real life V are, number one, the tires are not the same at all.
Yeah.
iRacing V, it's modeled after the Toyo Proxy tire, whereas the real world tire is a 5 and a 5.5 inch slick from Hoosier. The other things from feeling the car and then also driving the V, the iRacing V is severely underpowered and overgeared to a certain extent. So first and second feel pretty similar in iRacing to the real world, but then third and fourth, I've never driven a long box in real life, so I can't say for certain, but it almost feels like third and fourth are somewhere in between a short box V in real world versus a long box V.
You're gonna have to explain that to people like me that don't know what that means.
So real world racing, you have a short box and a long box, and it relates to your gear ratios in third and fourth gear.
Okay.
So short box, you're going to rev higher, accelerate faster coming out of the corners. You're not going to bog down.
Gears. Okay.
Shorter gears versus a long box. You've got longer gears. And so like Road America, you'd think would be a place you'd run a long box because of how long the straightaways are. The winning strategy is actually short box because of all the hills.
Okay.
The long box really struggles coming up the front straight. and coming up into turn 6. Now, if you go to somewhere like Sebring where it's bone flat, long box, because it doesn't have to deal with the elevation change. Because you got to remember, a V, the best V you're going to see for horsepower, 60, maybe 61, 62 horsepower, out of a national caliber engine. And for speed reference, iRacing V, I think going into 5, I top out, I want to say like 100, 105. At runoffs last year in the draft, they were topping out about 113, 115.
Sure.
Going
Okay.
into 5. So it's not a huge speed differential, but when you're also only talking about when you're talking only about 100, 115 versus 102, that's still you're talking about 10% of your speed there, in terms of differential.
Yeah, I'm reading here. Brian's mentioned, he said he has 2 short boxes now. Third gear is 122, which is the same as a long box with a short third gear. I have no idea what that means, because the reason I ask that, honestly, is because, when I think of gearing, with all of my mechanical background and stuff, like working on my El Camino and my truck and all that stuff, lifted the truck, had to get shorter gearing, right? So my El Camino had 410. The only thing I know is it had 410 gearing in it. So that, I would assume that's a final
You'd climb a tree.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
You'd climb a tree.
Exactly.
Yep.
But, my truck, which I want to put 410 in, it has 373 because I need it to climb that tree. But that ratio, it goes over all those gears, correct? Now, what Brian over here is talking about is just one single gear. That's 122 with it.
That's gear you're talking about is the rear end.
Right.
And what Brian's talking about is third gear in the transmission.
Okay, I got you.
Yep. And so, Brian, feel free to correct me in the chat if I'm wrong here. The 122, what that's referring to is the amount of rotations the input shaft is giving versus the amount of rotations the output shaft is giving. So a 122, that input shaft is spinning 1.22 times for every one rotation of the mated and outgoing shaft on the transmission. So when you get to 1-to-1, that's a direct. So if the engine is spinning 5,000 RPM, that output shaft is spinning at 5,000 RPM. If if you're at a 2.0, which is I don't know what the gear ratios are in V boxes. I haven't gotten that far into it. Yeah. But if you're at a 2.0, if the engine's spinning 5,000, your output's spinning at 2,500. Yeah. So takes your torque up and your speed down, essentially.
Yeah. And I know it has something to do with the amount of teeth as well. You can count the teeth on it, and that gives you your ratio that you're looking at, which is crazy. Welcome to Transmission Talk on the Radio Sports channel, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, my background is mechanical engineering, so
yeah, exactly.
I'm a techie. I like I like data. I like numbers,
sure.
Which was a whole different thing at the school. Because of course I'm coming off track and I'm looking, and Mark knows this. He knows I like numbers, so he of course is asking me, what's your RPM coming out of this corner? What gear are you at here? What are you seeing? And I'm like, man,
yeah.
I'm focusing on just keeping the damn thing on the track. Pardon my language. I'm not looking at the RPM right now. He goes, well, next session. He's like, next session when you come out of turn 1 and you hit, the exit curbing, the end of the curbing, check your tack, see what RPM you're at, and that'll give you a reference marker for your pace. Because backing up slightly, the car does not have a speedo in it.
Right.
I have a tack. Yeah. I have oil pressure. Mm-hmm. There is an oil temp gauge, but the engine we had in the car didn't have the sensor connected, so it's just taped over so I don't look at it.
Sure.
There's a big red light on the left side that is no oil pressure light or low oil pressure light, which basically if that thing comes on, just
pull it off,
shut the engine off. Yep. Shut it off, get out of the way.
Yep.
And then I have an aim dash that shows me my lap times, and that is the extent of my instrumentation in the cockpit. And to be honest with you, the only time I'm looking at that aim dash is like once or twice a session when I cross start finish line. Other than that, I'm just looking for red or green lights.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the V's, when we're sitting here talking about the transmission, all that stuff, when you go to set the V up for a race weekend, what exactly can you do to it? Are you worried about the engine so much? Are you more worried about the transmission, suspension setups? Like, what do you do to get the car ready for the weekend?
So from my end, and this is going to be not the answer you're wanting, but I'll give you the short answer. From my end, I don't actually do a lot when I'm crewing.
Right.
And when I'm driving, at least the one time I've done it, I don't do anything because I have the very nice luxury of having Mark and my father there to crew for me and work on the car. In terms of actual setup, you're pretty limited in what you can and can't do. The biggest one on the engine side is carburetor. I mean, these things are still a carbureted engine, so changing jetting.
Yep.
Dan
it could be
Yep.
any number of any one of the jets you could change. I mean, you're changing your air correction jet, your full throttle jet, your idle jet, etc. That's a big one, which we did during our race because we had the exhaust leak, so we actually richened it out because it was running lean.
Right.
And then once we fixed the exhaust and the barometric pressure changed, we leaned it back out on Sunday, which thankfully we did because that's how we found the transmission. But then beyond that.
Hang on. You just mentioned barometric pressure. Are you that worried about the amount of power you get out of a V that you're checking the barometric pressure outside, and that's what you know what to jet the carb at?
So Mark, yes, he is constantly checking barometric pressure day to day. I mean, when we were at runoffs last year, he was checking barometric pressure in the morning. He was checking it right before sessions. He was checking it after the sessions. He constantly, because you got to remember, these things only make, like I said, they only make like 60 horsepower on the very pointy end of the engines. And if when you're trying to play that game of just minute amounts of advantage, if you can gain an extra half of the horsepower off of your jetting, you're taking that advantage every chance you can get.
The V's are just so close with everybody.
Yep.
It's just any little thing to give you advantage like that. That's what they do. They're so close.
And it's one of those things in the GCR where they specifically say, if it doesn't say you can, assume you can't.
Right.
There's very little you can actually do. So outside of picking long versus short in terms of transmission, you're jetting on the carb. Outside of that, you have front camber and tow that you can kind of play with, but the reality with front camber is basically you max in as much camber as you can get, and it stays there. You can play with tow to get it pointy or not, and then on the back end, you can play with camber and tow as well. I didn't make any adjustments to that or ask for any adjustments to that in terms of setup over the weekend. We just Mark knows what the setup is at Blackhawk. He knows what it should be and how it should feel, and he sets it up. And he'll ask me, during the weekend, he asked me, how does it feel balance wise? Is it doing what it wanted? And of course, until we realized what was going on with the transmission, it felt good to me, other than just slidey. But I also did a little bit of go-karting, arrive and drive stuff, so I'm used to the feeling of a go-kart sliding on me. So a little bit of sliding on the V it didn't throw a red flag at me right away. Once we fixed that transmission and spoiler, we fixed the transmission, I was 2 seconds faster.
Right.
Saturday, like on Sunday versus Saturday. I went out Saturday, best lap I turned was like a 126.5 in quali. On Sunday, once we fixed it, I was a 124.5.
Wow.
And in terms of like what I was perceiving as like pushing versus not, maybe like 1 to 2% more in terms of push. Like it's still like it was, as I was saying during the school week or school day, it was comfortable in the uncomfortableness of just you're running this thing right on the edge of grip in a lot of corners. But like it felt good. It didn't feel like I was over driving. And then in the race, I went another 0.4 faster.
Wow.
In the race, I got down to a 124.2.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very minimal. Yeah, just bringing it down. And I've never I know the track. And this is where we're kind of getting into like history a little bit here. So my dad grew up in Beloit, which is 5 minutes from the track, right? I've been there before and raced bicycles. That's what I did for 20 years before I got into cars. So I know the track from that standpoint of racing a bicycle around it. However, in a bicycle, fastest you're going about 30 miles an hour, and you really don't brake or slow down. And so like I know the corners, I know the layout, but I don't know what it's like in a car. So that was the biggest hurdle, was just getting the feeling. And we actually had to adjust my seating position because I was really struggling with the spatial awareness of where the sides of the car were and where the edge of the track is. Because when I'm sitting in the car, I can just barely see like the top little bit of the front tires and the outside edge.
Okay.
And that's it. I can't see the nose cone. I can't see past, like I can barely see the front beam on the suspension, if I'm honest with you. I can't see anything. And then rear, the mirrors, I can see the way I have them set up. I can see like the outside edge of the tire is like the inner third of the mirror, and then the rest of it is just track, so that I can see cars coming up on me. So I mean, it was a lot of just getting the feel for the track, and then Brian, I see your comment. I never quite got all the way to full throttle, unfortunately, and I part of that is because I didn't get the full race on Saturday. I did get close. I was down to just like a very little. If you think like an iRacing, when you go to Road America for like the first time in an Indy car or a GTP, and you have that little confidence crack of the throttle going through the kink. That's what it was for me at 3D. It was just that slight confidence crack, and then as soon as I got turned in, boom, right back on throttle, and it was just bury it and hold it all the way to 6, which once I got that done, that's a blast. Once you get back on throttle coming through 4 through 5 and into turn 6, which is a right-hander right by where you cross the track to get in, it's pretty fun. I will say that, because that V, once you get her turned in, if you can keep your hands quiet, she will hold all the way through at full throttle, and it's quite a fun time.
Antonio's also asking about the exhausts from the cars in the front. Obviously, open cockpit and all that stuff. Do you get a lot of that exhaust blowback?
Well, in the V's in iRacing, you get that smoke. So you get the smoke.
You get that in real life too. There's I don't have the video clip, and there's a couple of pictures here you can pop up as I start to talk about them here, I think. So there isn't the video, but the V in real life, it does spit a little bit of smoke out the exhaust. Now, I didn't have to deal with that because there wasn't any V's. So if you scroll backwards or forwards here, I think, where are they at here?
Yeah. See, this is what happens when I put them in order, Stevie.
So actually, let me go back one. So you can kind of see here, there's all the smoke from the other cars going around, and you won't see it off the V. But so this is at the start of the race at Blackhawk. So this is coming out, rolling up to get rolling here. And they do blow smoke. And if you're driving behind another V, and this I know from crewing, it is a pain in the butt to clean these things, because you see that nice, pretty white nose cone there.
Oh, yeah.
When I was working for Mike Nitz last year, who drove this car last year all season, I would have to spend a solid 10 minutes sometimes cleaning the nose cone because it was so coated in oil. They don't leak per se, but they do burn and spit oil out the exhaust, especially when you come off throttle. And it's not fun. So I had tear offs on, and those are mostly on because for the school I was running with a whole bunch of SRF 3s. And I just inherently don't like getting hit in the face by stuff, and I don't want my visor getting scuffed up. So if rocks are going to get kicked up, I'd rather they hit my tear off than the visor. Also, side comment, Brian, Andres was my instructor for my school. Awesome guy, super funny to talk to. Very much a European attitude with some of his comments, and an older guy attitude. But yeah, so then if you go back, I apologize, Adam, if you go back real quick, I just want to throw a shout out. So scroll forward on those again for me.
Don't mind me. Stand by. We're getting there.
Yep. No, so like these are all older historic pictures that I'll get to in a minute here. So right here, so this was the support group that got me through all of Sunday and kept my head level. So on the left of the picture here is my dad with the radio headset, which was awesome. We were able to run radios during the school and the races, and it was awesome to have
the most badass helmet I've ever seen, Jake. You win.
And it's stock. It's not even custom. That's a stock RaceQuip livery.
That is awesome. Damn it, I love that helmet.
It is
Brian
very nice.
He raced against your dad. So. Raced
against Andre. Yeah, not my dad, but my coach. So, but anyway, so my dad was running my radio and my pit, and he was doing the majority of the mechanical work, other than like the carburetor jetting and stuff, just because he's like, yeah, that's too small. Mark can handle that. Middle there in the blue is my uncle. So those two, obviously, they both grew up in Beloit. They went to the track all the time. My grandfather actually has a brother, a friend, that raced a Pinto back back when my dad was my age at Blackhawk. And then on the far right there is my girlfriend Alyssa. She came up Friday night and just took a lot of pictures. I think actually the the picture on the little snippet on the video, the preview, that was taken by her. So huge thanks to her for coming out. And
sorry,
Adam.
Brian. So Antonio asked the question, and that's a great question. Is the engine mounted sideways? Is it?
Nope. So
Flat.
it's a flat 4.
Okay.
Cylinder or valve covers on both sides down there.
Yeah.
Yep. So air cooled engine. So that's where you're getting the cooling on the cylinder head, and then that duct you see there where it says FV, that feeds in and cools the actual cylinder wall and all the fins and everything there on the engine. Because it is, for lack of a better phrase, a stock, quote unquote, Volkswagen Beetle engine. It's finessed a little bit and played with and whatnot, but it is still a Volkswagen Beetle engine, stock block, mostly stock internals. There's a couple approved alternate parts you can put in there in the GCR, but other than that, it's an air-cooled flat 4 engine. Makes a very non-Volkswagen sound, I will say. It does not sound like a Beetle. And yeah, like Brian said, so the Beetle was rear engine, FV is mid, so the transmission is actually flipped.
Right.
And Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I remember hearing this in a runoffs broadcast. To get the transmission to run the way we need it to, it has to run the ring gear from a Volkswagen bus.
Yes. I've heard.
Because otherwise you'll have 4 reverse gears and 1 forward gear.
Yep. That's impressive.
And your forward gear will be very slow.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the family, family and support crew. Not everyone could make it. Here's after the Sunday race, the ceremonial victory lap, as I called it, because I was the only V in the class. But after Saturday's loss of the race, because I went out, I didn't even finish the whole lap. I got to turn 7 after lap 1, lost third, immediately pulled in.
Yep.
So that was big, and there were tears in my eyes as I was doing that and rolling through, and I come through turn 4, which was where everyone they were in turn 4 in the bleachers, and I saw them waving and clapping and cheering for me, and that was awesome. And then I can't remember what go one more forward. I can't remember what the next one was. So this is just coming through. This is coming through turn 4. So this is the corner that I was talking about here. So if you look in the background here, you'll see the exit of the carousel here behind that berm. And then the track used to come straight on, which you can kind of see there, the old pavement. So the track used to come straight through, and you're just, and you're full throttle in a V, you're full throttle through the carousel. So once you get turned in and get your apex point marked, you're full throttle. So it was full chat all the way into that corner. And I don't know the exact reasoning behind it, but I'm pretty sure it's the same as Road America, where they added that mostly for the motorcycles, because the motorcycles would do stupid things, and
yeah, I do want to.
There's a wall there that you don't want to hit at full throttle.
I want to mention something. A couple things. First of all, about the car, about this picture. First of all, you mentioned you camber all the way out, and I can see why. Your right front tire right now, even with 60 horsepower, I don't know what speed you're taking that corner. It could be camera angle too, but your right front tire is basically standing straight up while you're turning left right there. You can see how much the left side tire is cambered out there.
Yeah.
But then look at how low you're running this thing to the ground. I mean,
we are almost scraping. We are almost scraping the track. I did have a couple spins, unfortunately. And if you watch my YouTube videos, you'll see the next video I post, actually, you'll have a spin, and it was in this corner. I had 2 surfs behind me, and I was kind of in my mirrors, and I got a little bit offline. And when I turned in, it wasn't a snap. These cars, they're very lazy usually when you spin them, at least from my experience. So it started to go, and I got the counter steer into it, and then it just went, and I was like, okay, lock it down, control it, don't do anything stupid. But yeah, when you get on the brakes, the weight transfer is pretty substantial. You don't feel it per se in the car, but it loads up really hard, and these things aren't very high off the ground anyways, and we run, at least in this car, we run a pretty considerable amount of rake back to front on the car, so it loads up quick. And then and it was even funnier when my dad found it, pushing these things. You don't really, so you see the shock mounts there, the vertical kind of uprights.
Yep.
You don't want to push the car backwards or forwards on those, because you will compress the suspension and bottom it out.
Really?
So when
Wow.
when we're backing the car up, and Brian will yell at me for this one because I did not use reverse ever. They always push me.
Yep.
We were pushing the car back into the grass onto the paddock where we were at, and he was pushing on the suspension uprights, and he pushed it down so far that we were rubbing the belly pan of the nose cone along the gravel and concrete as we were dropping down the little bit of a lip. But yeah, so any heavy to moderate braking corner you see, we're going to be basically on the nose. And Antonio, you can adjust the suspension to avoid the nose bottoming out. During the race, we're not actually bottoming out. It gets really close.
It's pretty damn close right there, Jake.
It doesn't actually bottom out. It gets very, very close, but it doesn't actually bottom out. But yeah, you can adjust your spring packs and stuff and the shocks to change your low speed and high speed. Or I shouldn't say low speed. You can adjust your compression and rebound. You can change your spring packs and stuff. That's well beyond what I know in terms of car setup just yet. That'll all be something that I learn as I go. Yeah, I remember seeing Dan, Brian's chat in the F8 Weekend Warriors. He was talking about the suspension and bottoming out after the jump.
Oh, at Grattan.
Yeah. But yeah, so that corner was very tricky with the transmission issue though, because I wasn't comfortable enough to go full throttle through it, which you should be able to at first. And so when I was coming in, every time I would lift and I would get that sudden weight shift and the transmission would kind of rock, the whole back of the car would get squirrely on me, and it would feel like a go-kart on turn-in, essentially, where you'd flick it in and the back end would kind of start to step and you'd catch it and then steer it with your right foot. Well, with this, you can't really do that because it weighs more than a go-kart.
Yeah.
So that was a tricky corner to just get the feel for. And then, like I said, by the end of the weekend, I was this close. Next time I go there, it's full throttle through that corner. Yeah. there is no doubting it. I'm just going to suck it up and make sure I hit my line. Yeah. So this is just looking at that. And then over here, going back real quick, that's the little chicane. That is a very tricky corner. You can't see it. It's kind of cut off, but you come out of the carousel, you blend left just a little bit, and then it's a hard right-left flick through there. And the way it sets up is once you get your braking marker for that first what's 3A there, you hit the gas, and then you should be full throttle all the way through until turn 6. So if you look at a map, the track looks like a C from the exit of that chicane all the way to turn 6, which is a hard right corner. You are full throttle, and you basically top out.
Now that we're looking at these pictures, there are a few things that I'm now that we're talking about the track. I don't see the whole track here, obviously, but I see enough to know that it's not very wide. You're probably not going to be making many passing. There's probably not very many passing zones around here, I would assume. So when you've got two surfs coming up your ass, I can see why you got a little bit scared there.
Yeah, so it didn't happen. So it didn't happen before that, but during the school, I had two surfs behind me, and I don't know why they got impatient with me. They knew I was a student. They decided to pass going through this chicane, and that chicane, there is very much so only one line. If you are going through there at any kind of speed, there is one line. It is not a passing zone,
right?
At all. If you're really, really good and have enough grip, you can get the pass on the outside of that carousel there, but it's not not the funnest,
right?
And if you're the car on the inside, you're terrified because all it takes is some dirt drug on track by I don't say this to sound mean, by a surf, because they like to cut that corner and bring gravel on track on the apex. All it takes is you to hit that gravel and car skirts a little bit to the left, and all of a sudden you're hitting each other. And the other thing with this track, there's walls here.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't a whole lot of walls everywhere else. So the exit of turn 3 is actually just a dirt berm.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hit it and you hit it right, you will climb it, and then it drops off on the backside, which a T2 Beamer found out much to his displeasure. During one of the sessions. He climbed and went over the berm. And all we hear and my dad's got his scanner on, he goes, yeah, we've got track cleanup. A car went over the berm. And I'm like, how the heck did you do that? But anyways, yeah, so there's not a lot of passing opportunities. In terms of faster class, Really you just wait for him to get on the straightaway. So like surfs, FFs, etc. They can pass. So once you get to the exit of 4 here, you can pass around the outside going through 5, especially if you're passing something like a V where we kind of hug it tight to the left. There's 2 ways you can take it. You can either hug it tight left or you can track out to the right. It all depends on your speed and what gear you're in. For the most part, I was hugging it tight left during the school because it was constantly surfs going by me. And I was being very, very generous with my point buys, even though you're not required to. Any time I had surfs or anything behind me, I'd come out of 5 and immediately, point them to the right to let them know that they're there or that I know they're there and they can go by. But then other than that, really your only good passing opportunities are if you can get alongside them at 7, you can make a pass. If you're alongside at 1, you can make a pass. And then beyond that, it's kind of just draft and slingshot. There really isn't a lot of good spots for it. It's a great track. Don't get me wrong. I love the track, but it's tricky to overtake. It's not like Road America where you've got 5-6 corners that you can work with. And it's only the track's not even 2 miles long, so it's less than half the distance of Road America.
Here we go. I got something for us here. Is this right?
I don't see it yet.
Oh, well, this is why. So we're gonna get out of this for 1 second here and come back into here.
Yep.
There you go.
Is this the track map we're talking about?
Yep, that's the track map.
All right. So now that we can get a little bit more, figure out what's going on. So Brian, I think it was Brian asking questions about what he was talking about. 5,
4 up to 6.
4 up to 6. So this is when he's saying. So this is right here where you got a little bit scared, right? You had to lift into 5. Yep. Okay.
Little bit.
Yep.
Into 4, and then 5 is flat. So 3
okay.
is the carousel I was talking about.
Right.
And then you've got that little quick. You got that jink into the chicane there, and then from that chicane through, it should be flat. So from 4 to 5 to 6 is flat, and then 6 is. Honestly, it's not even a heavy braking zone. I would call it moderate in terms of braking.
Right.
Into 3rd, and then basically you get to the apex, and as soon as you're at the apex, you're back on track because as you can see here where it says crossover, that's how you get into the track. There is no tunnel like Road America or a bridge. So to get in, you have to wait for the track to be cold, and then you physically cross the track.
Right.
College used to have that. They just got a tunnel last year.
Mm-hmm. And you use all of it. Like you use all of the curbing and some of that crossover if you're really carrying a lot of boogie through it. And then you hit. It's not labeled here. I call this one the second right-hander 6A, and then where it says 6A, I call that 6B.
Oh, okay.
Technically, or technically, that's just what I call it as. So you come out of 6, and then you're flat all the way through until 7. And I can't really tell, but if you're looking at this to scale, the braking marker for me for 7 was just about after the halfway point between that bend and then turn 7.
I got you. Okay.
I was leaving that one very, very late.
Wow.
As late as I could without going too far. And then turn 1, and Brian and Dan, feel free to chime in here in the chat. Mark was telling me my brake marker should be about the 2.5 marker. I was getting closer to the 2 by the end of the weekend, and he goes, "Yep, you're doing it right then. you're doing good." But those are the only really like good braking markers you have, other than or at the track. Like everything else is all kind of just kind of going to Ford versus Ferrari when they're at the airport, and he's talking about the cracks on the road. A lot of the other braking markers for me were just lines on the road.
Right.
Cracks on the track or whatever, or turning points for like for that.
Dan in the chat.
I saw that.
Dan saying I was a bitch for T1. Yeah, Dan.
I was that way at the beginning of the weekend. Like I was braking at like the 4 marker for the start one, for the start of the weekend, and then just progressively getting closer and closer. And I do agree, it is a perfect track for a V because as much as I love Road America, it's my favorite track. It's my home track. It's my first track that I love. I already know from racing it and iRacing, it's going to be boring because you're just full throttle for a very long straightaway, and you only really have to downshift for a few corners. A lot of the corners you don't have to downshift for, which is interesting.
Antonio, yes, by the way, a Black Hawk is a helicopter. So that is correct, Antonio. You got that right. But I want to go through these chats here real quick, then we can finish out the pictures, I promise. But I mentioned something here. Brian said reverse is very hard to get into. Need to jam it so hard into your leg. So I'm going to ask you to do something for me, Jake. If you've got any in-car pictures, I've never seen the cockpit of a V, so we don't have to do it during the podcast, but I want to see the cockpit of a V to see where are you shifting from. Is it on the right side or is it between your legs?
So I have an overhead shot of me in the car. And when I test fit the car, I actually fit better. Because it was pre me going to the gym as often as I have. Like going into this weekend, I was hitting the gym very, very heavily. I wanted to make sure that I was going to have the stamina, that I was going to be able to, I don't know how hard it's going to be to steer, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So I was hitting the gym pretty hard. And I put on a little bit of muscle. So when I got to the track and got in the car for the first time, the gymnastics contortion routine that I have to do to get in the car is pretty entertaining. And I'll send the overhead shot, because in the car you have the main roll hoop and then there's two braces that come down to the rest of the chassis. My shoulders actually sit underneath those diagonal braces.
Oh wow.
So to get in the car, I have to, I get in like you would think any normal open wheel car. I get in, slide my legs down, whatever. And then I'm actually leaning all the way forward with my chest almost into the steering column.
Down.
And I have to turn to the right like this, and then tuck my shoulder underneath the brace, and then tuck my other shoulder into the brace. And then once I'm in, I can get my lap belts and my anti-submarine belt done up. Shoulder harness, everything else, nope, can't do it. I can't even tighten my lap belts down tight enough for my liking. I have to have my dad do that. And then I cinched on my shoulder straps. And so, yeah, look, what Brian's saying with the shifting's on your right. But because of how tight it is, you can't grab the shifter like you would a normal street car.
Yeah,
so
you gotta take it, kind of shove it up. Yeah.
So for my shifting to get into third, it wasn't a grab. It was, if you're looking at my hand here, it was kind of the heel of my pinky here. I just kind of put that against it and push. Not even holding the shifter. And then to get fourth, and that's the thing. So third is actually kind of easy because I can actually move my arm and push. Fourth, because of where I'm sitting, which, fun fact, you don't really have a seat. Your seat is the firewall that goes between you and the fuel cell. You're literally sitting on top of the fuel cell. Because of where my arm sits and because of how tight it is, the shift to fourth is I just hook on like my pinky here, and then I flick my wrist. And that's it. I can't actually grab and pull. And I'll get that overhead shot, because when you see the overhead shot, you see how snug I am in this car. Like, I mean, it is very tight. My knees are about yay far below the dash.
Yeah.
Which is nice because the fire bottle is also right there under. 5'10", 5'11".
I would barely fit. I mean, I'm 6'2", so I have a feeling that'd be real tight.
You would struggle. Yeah, you'd struggle in it. The thing with me is, for my height, I have very long legs. That's just my build. I have very long legs, which makes it interesting because going back, shift down is actually easier for me than shifting up, Antonio. Just because of the way I have to move my hand and my arm. Because shifting down is I can actually move my whole arm to push. The shift up, I have to do a weird hook twist of my wrist kind of thing. But so the interesting that I'm going to quick mention here is, if you remember the picture standing next to my girlfriend, or when my girlfriend was standing there, when she stands next to me, her head is about shoulder height. I don't have a picture of me standing. I can find one. But so you see her standing next to my dad and my uncle. I'm about the same height as them, and they're kind of hunching down. So when they're standing up straight, her head is about their shoulder, which is about the same for me. And she wanted to sit in the car just to see what it was like. And we're all kind of, poking fun at her because she's the short one.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, oh, are you sure you're going to be able to see over the steering wheel? Yada, yada, yada. So she gets in. Her head is only about an inch lower than mine when she's actually in the car. So our torsos are actually much closer in size than most people think. The difference is my legs are about a foot longer than hers. So she's in there, her legs are resting on the fire bottle, and she's like tippy toeing the pedals, which in a V isn't a problem with the throttle and the brake because there's not a whole lot of travel. In fact, the brake, you hear all the talk in F1 about like, oh, my brake pedal's getting long, and they're talking about like, fractions of a millimeter. It is that. You step on the brake and it just, you have brake instantly. There is no dead throw. The clutch is where it would be a problem. So if she's watching, and please don't hate me and come in here and yell at me. She is very competitive. She is very likes adrenaline, likes go-karting. So fingers crossed one day I can get her in a car and she can give it a try.
Get her into some iRacing too.
Is this Road America?
That is Road America.
Okay.
So real quick, she has tried iRacing on my simulator. She hasn't tried it with the new triple monitor setup in the cockpit yet. The last time she tried it was in VR, and she decided she wanted to try the Cadillac GTP at Road America.
Oh.
And I warned her. I'm like, that's not a good idea. You don't want to do that. You're gonna spin very quickly, and when you spin in VR.
Oh yeah.
Motion sickness is a real thing.
Yeah, it's not used.
But she was like, nope, I want to. She's like,
I
I want to try it. I want to do it. And so she tried it, and she got like 5-10 minutes in it, and she's like, I'm not feeling so good.
Yeah.
And stop. So getting into the pictures here because
that's pit road at Road America, isn't it?
Yep. So that is pit road at Road America, June sprints 2 years ago. So that was when I was working with Caleb at the time.
Yep. Yep.
That was his first year at June Sprints. He was in the Acura. My dad is the one that took the picture. This was, I don't know what session this was, but I know it was
P2.
It was
P1.
Yeah. So it was during his I think it was during his qualifying, if I remember correctly. And this was post doing a complete transmission swap on the car. And the reason I know that is because of the shirt that I am wearing. Because Thursday into Friday, I went through all of my mechanic shirts, changing out the transmission because I just was I was just covered in grease and oil and grit and everything you can think of coming out of a blown up Acura transmission was covered and on me, and my face was black from everything.
I remember you guys had a lot of work that weekend.
Oh yeah. He blew, not to get too far off, but he blew the transmission first test session out on Thursday morning. And then immediately back to the pits. I spent from 8:30 Thursday morning until about 10 at night getting the transmission into the car and hung so that it was bolted in and everything was good. And then Friday morning was putting the whole bottom end back in, subframe, axles, wheels, getting everything reconnected so that he could make it out for qualifying, which he did. He made it out for qualifying. And then we found out that he didn't have VTEC.
I remember
because the transmission we put in was from a newer generation car and the sensors didn't all line up. And so we spent the rest of the day Friday trying to get VTEC. And then what ended up happening was we did some research, and he went into the tune and just clicked a checkbox that says ignore speed because the VTEC only kicks in if the car is going faster than 25 miles an hour.
Oh wow.
So if you don't have a speed sensor going to the ECU, it thinks it's going 0. It won't kick in VTEC, and that was worth, I want to say, like, I think it was 7 to 8 seconds.
Jeez,
at Road America,
God.
having VTEC versus not. It was a massive speed increase. So then tying back in. So if you saw my Facebook post, racing has been in my blood since I was a kid. My dad grew up going to Road America, going to Blackhawk Farms, Milwaukee Mile, taking 35 millimeter film photos of kart and champ car and everything else. And he was also a cyclist, which is why I got into it. So this is down in Louisville, 2013 Masters World Cyclocross Championships. And the guy I'm standing next to is Ben Bostrom.
Okay.
From motorcycle racing.
Oh, wow.
Had no idea who he was at the time, like when we first met him. And my dad's like, dude, he's like professional motorcycle racer. I was like, oh, I've watched some of your races. And so that was a super cool, just seeing, the motorcycles going in. This is where it really gets a little bit sentimental for me. And I apologize if I ramble a little bit here. So this is at Road America. I believe, I think this was pre 2008. No, so this is ALMS.
Okay.
Back before the merger. I was maybe 10, 11 years old at the time, and I'm not in the picture, but this is one of the like.
Not your little head down there.
That's my brother, I believe. Actually.
Okay.
So this is ALMS back in the Risi Competizione F430 GT days. So we're talking, Audi diesel, open cockpit P1 cars, GT1, GT2, the whole shebang. I'm a huge Ferrari fan. Always have been. I started watching F1 in the Michael Schumacher days. I love Ferrari. I've got a bunch of Ferrari Legos.
Well, we can
yada yada yada.
We can be friends now, but last year we wouldn't have been friends.
So we go to Road America like we always do for the ALMS race. And I wanted to get Ferrari hats, Ferrari shirts. And fun fact, you'll see it in one of the pictures. I still have the Ferrari shirt that I was wearing.
No.
So if you go one more, I think here you'll see it. Nope, keep going one more. I lied. It might be the first one too. Yep, this one. So these shirts that we're wearing here, my brother and I still have mine and it fits. It still fits me to this day.
Looks like it was a couple sizes too big right there.
Yeah, it's a little large there.
Does, but it still fits me. But anyways, so as you can see, F430 GT, not even anywhere near the turbo days. But so I'm a huge Ferrari fan. Wanted to get all their autographs on our hats and stuff and everything. And the first one we were trying to get was Jamie Mello at the time. At the time it was Jamie Mello, Harrison Bricks, Mika Salo, who you see here, and then I think it was Bell. I can't remember which Bell it was, but one of the Bells was filling in. So we wanted to get Jamie's autograph, and right as we got to him, he had walked away. And so if you go back one picture, I believe. Sorry, Adam.
You're good.
Oh, other way.
Other way. That back.
Yep.
My left, not your left.
Yep. Okay. So you can't quite see her, but so we go to get Jamie's autograph, miss him. The gal behind the driver here, this is Harrison Bricks. She comes up and she hears my dad go, "Ah, crap." She goes, "What's wrong?" We wanted to get Jamie's autograph. She goes, "Oh, I can take care of that." Puts her hand on my dad's shoulder, walks us all forward, walks us up to the little, movie theater tape barrier at the time at the paddock, because they didn't even have fencing. They just had the little, retractable strap thingy. Flicks it up, lets it just freewheel back into the post, walks us straight through the transporter area, walks up to Jamie, taps him on the shoulder. He turns around. She goes, "Jamie, autograph." And just points at us. And at this point, we're like, "What the flock is going on? What is this?" And so she's going, "Okay, well, who else do you need?" We're like, "Okay, well, we need Mika, we need Bell, and we need Harrison." She goes, "Okay, well, Harrison's out testing right now, but I can get you Mika and Bell." So we go, and if you go back forward now, so that's Mika signing my hat at the time. And the thing is, my dad took pictures of all of these things, and then we went back the next year and had them sign the pictures. That's how into this we were. Yep. So we get Mika's autograph, we get Bell's autograph, and then this is where going back to, I guess go back one more, and that's the last time I'll point you into that picture. One more, sorry, two more. This one. So she's like, "Yeah, Harrison's out testing. He'll be back in like 10 minutes or whatever when he's done. Don't worry, we'll get his autograph. He's my son." So we had literally just spent the last 2 hours getting autographs with his mom, not knowing it. So the gal behind.
That's wild.
Not knowing it was his mom. So he comes back in. We're standing there, brings the car into the paddock, pulls it in, gets out of the car, doesn't even get a chance to take his helmet off, and go. And his mom walks up to him and goes, taps him on the shoulder and just goes, "Autograph." That's all she had to say was just autograph. So that whole thing was really cool because we got to meet a whole bunch of the mechanics and the crew and everything else. And it was one of the most heartbreaking races for me. And the reason being is during the race, it was one of the ones that ran into the early evening. So it was dark when it finished. Ferrari was leading, and we were watching the whole race from right behind their pit box, through the fencing, watching their monitors. They're handing us treats and candy and yada yada yada, and we're getting down right towards the end of the race. They've already handed out the Michelin winners hats and everything, and the crew chiefs and Harrison's mom and everyone's they're pointing, and they come up, they go, "Dad, when we win, keep up." And he goes, "What do you mean?" He's like, "We are grabbing the kids and they are going to victory circle with us."
Oh, wow.
Keep up.
That's awesome.
And he's like, "Okay, cool." And so this is all going on, and they're, we're getting feedback, and they're like, "Okay, we're going to need a caution so that we don't have to splash and dash, yada, yada, yada." right before the caution they needed, there was a miscommunication on a slingshot into a pick. So Harrison was getting caught by Mika. Mika was going to slingshot. Harrison was going to throw a pick for the car behind and get a gap, and then that was going to set them up for what they needed. Harrison moved the wrong way. Mika jinked left. Harrison also jinked left, killed all of his momentum, and let the Porsche, which is the Porsche I am sitting in, hence the reason I'm not smiling, catch up going into the caution. So there was supposed to be a car between them going into the caution, and that didn't happen.
Oh,
so they go into caution. They've already got the hats on, like everything's going fine. He comes into turn 5. Or no, excuse me, 6. Comes into turn 6. So he comes through 5, up the hill into 6, and spins out.
Oh no!
With the Porsche right behind him.
Oh,
and they had to come back and take the winner's hat back.
Oh,
it was like 2 or 3 laps left in the race. And they had to come back and go, we need these back.
Yep.
And it was like we were waiting there. The cars came back. It was the iciest. It was the most ice cold like interaction between everybody I've ever seen at a race. Afterwards, it's like, oh, it was so gut wrenching. And yeah,
Brian says he was there. So
yeah, he said he was in the overflow camping. You pleb, get out of here, Brian. Nobody wants to hear about you and your overflow camping.
We would always camp in the carousel. During those years, we would camp in the carousel with our pop-up camper. And another fun little story. They'll make it short, and I don't have pictures of it. But it's what really got me, like the racing bug bit me. It was the first year. It was ALMS. It was the first year they brought the Audi diesel LMP1 to the ALMS series. And it was sponsored by Generac. It was the Generac 500 or whatever. And we were camping in the carousel, and it was kind of ironic because, of course, we had Generac people all around us because they got tickets because they were sponsors. And we're watching practice. I think it was practice session 1. And this golf cart pulls up, whole bunch of Audi people, and in their full, nice fancy tech shirts and pants, and then the fully branded golf cart and everything. The guy walks up, very heavy German accent. Very good English, but very heavy German accent, asks if they can watch practice from our campsite and watch the car coming through the carousel. And of course, we say, Dad says, yeah, no problem. So they're hanging out, watching practice, and we're talking to him. And I'm all of 8 years old or something like that. I'm young, and I'm asking questions. I've always been a techie kid. This is how I was, and I'm asking technical questions about the car. And he's talking to me. He's not being patronizing or anything like that. He's just talking to me, having a conversation, answering questions. And they were there for pretty much the entire session. And then they left, and then all of a sudden our campsite just gets flooded. Absolutely flooded by people. And they're like, oh my God, did you get an autograph? Did you get a picture? Blah, 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 blah. And we're like, no, should we have? And this one guy goes, do you realize who that was? Dad's like, no. He goes, that was Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich. He is Mr. Audi. And I swear my dad damn near crapped his pants.
He's like, what the hell?
What? Like, holy. And so, so that's a very core memory for me.
Great
and
story.
then the one last little thing I have, and then if you guys have any last questions, you can go ahead. Ties into Road America next year with them making it an endurance event. Last year at IMSA, we were standing in the bluffs overlooking the kink, and we're watching Carrera Cup practice, and golf cart pulls up, pretty official IMSA looking golf cart. It's a guy and his wife and his daughter, and they pull up and they're just watching, no big deal. And my dad starts talking to this guy, and I walk over and start chatting, and my dad just goes, hey, you know who this is? I'm like, nope, should I? And I look down right as he flips his badge around. It was John Doonan.
Oh wow!
It was the head of IMSA.
Yeah.
Wow. And and like he's just talking. He's just being a fan. He's not looking to be, he's not doing his job. He's just being a fan and watching and seeing the improvements. And we talked to him for about 15, 20 minutes, and we told him the stories of when we would go there when I was a kid for the endurance races and everything and this and that. And he's like, yeah, I can't say anything, but don't be surprised if news comes out at some point. And then literally, Sebring this year, they announce it's going to be a 6-hour endurance race again.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
cool.
my dad sees or hears the announcement, and he texts me and goes,
We knew it
"Oh
first.
my god!" And
Yep.
And Brian, actually, Butch was telling us how Doonan would crew for oh crap, I can't remember who it was, but he crewed he was crewing for a race that Butch and Mark were racing, and there was a tie, and the story goes it came down to a vote of like 5 people as to who finished first, and it was tied 2-2, and I can't remember who the last vote was, but somebody voted to break the tie. And Butch and Doonan was like there, and he was like a young hotshot fired up kid or whatever. Because the V that I raced, that 94, was Butch's car. At one point, I think he said the last time he raced it was at Kettles, and he won the race, which of course I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be my next race. So that was really cool. Just just little things that like you be around racing long enough, and you just have these really really cool moments, and that's what's kept me coming back, and getting to work with the Richardsons and their whole family, Rich and Mark, and we just call his mom it's not even a name, it's just mom. Sweetest lady ever. His dad's super cool. I got to meet them all at runoffs. They all came up, which was awesome. It's just been great, and it's been a wonderful community just to get involved with, and I can't say enough how much I'm looking forward to more races. And then hopefully, you can make it up to runoffs this year, Stevie, and we can hang out and have another brew or two in the paddock and catch up. And then going into next year,
going to try.
Next year, the goal is, if everything plays, qualify for runoffs. That is the goal, and everything I'm doing is pushing for that. Is qualify for runoffs next year.
Awesome.
So quick story.
It's we've always talked about it several times that the SCCA, the grassroots racing, is all community and family, and the group we've got here, it just transpires over to here as well. So great to have the chance to meet
Stevie,
people
speaking
like
of the
you.
group we've got here.
Oh, little one.
I know what's coming.
Hey, I've got to get Adam out here at some point, because I got to play a round of golf with him so I can get humbled.
Yep.
And there's a lot of good golf courses in Wisconsin. Just saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. I've been up there quite a bit. Aspen.
We all know what's coming.
Aspen's coming.
Oh.
So if you can see this,
we got her an outfit
on her shirt right now, but
we got her an outfit.
She's wearing an outfit here that Stevie got. Speaking of the group, say hi, Aspen. You're going to be famous one day just because of all this, right? So there's the front of it, and then on the back, got driver in training.
I love
it.
Love it.
Racing driver in training there. So pretty cool little pretty cool thing that Stevie did for us, and thank you so much, Stevie, for doing that and talking about the group stuff that we've gained. Obviously, I didn't know you, and I didn't know you through the real life racing, but through slow motion broadcasting, and it's cool. I mean, the community that we've all got here, that we can sit here and talk about this, and we've added one more to it. One more to it now. So don't worry. One of these days, Jake, maybe she'll be racing your son or daughter. Hopefully.
You never know. And just speaking of the group, and of course, as Adam walks away, hopefully he still can hear me. The whole slow motion racing team, the group, everything. It's we mentioned before I got live here. I've done a couple of races with them. Done Bathurst and I've done Sebring, and it's been such an awesome, just breath of fresh air. If I'm honest with you, like, yes, it's all virtual and most of us haven't ever met each other in real life, but just the conversations and the camaraderie and the coaching and the assistance and running trucks with Adam at was it Dega? I believe it was.
Yes.
Running trucks with Adam at Dega. That was without a doubt the most fun I've ever had in a race.
That was a blast, man.
That
Yes.
race was so much fun, and I've got the recording. It's on my other. Now I say this now. It's on my other hard drive. I've got to pull it and edit it so I can post it on YouTube.
You have to, drop all the F-bombs out of it, of course. But yeah, man, it was.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But that race was so much fun, and again, it's little things that get me started in this. Like I got started in the initial SCCA league with Stevie because of Caleb, and somewhat honestly because of the Grass Paddock Motorsports scholarship that they had that I was competing for. But then I stuck with it just because it's just such a great group of people. And then I was able to work for them at June Sprints last year, or 2 years. Last year. Sorry, I worked for them at Sprints last year when it was a monsoon, which didn't go the way we wanted. We had a car crash and the minis were struggling with BOP at the track, but it was still a great time. And meeting Trenton and meeting Frank and just those guys in person it was such a blast. It was such a great time. It really was. But like, thank you to Stevie, and I don't know how much of a hand you played in it, Adam, as well in the background. I don't know the full story, but like both of you guys, thank you so much for everything you do for the group and putting on the podcast and the races and the team. It means a lot, and everyone says it, but we can't say it enough. Like, it's great.
Well, the one thing that I'll say, and I think Stevie can second this, is I wouldn't be doing it if I wasn't having fun with it. And that's the big thing. Like this isn't. You don't need to thank us for doing anything, or at least me, because if I'm not having fun, I won't do it. Long story short, that's just how it is. So I have fun with the people I'm around, with the community that has been gained here. I've said it every podcast. I say it till I'm blue in the face. I've made friends here that some of the best friends I may never meet. When it comes to Ray Esports. So it's been an absolute blast for me too, as well. Obviously, I mean, I'm getting stuff sent to me from Stevie now about. He doesn't care about me anymore. He just cares about my daughter. I mean, I've got nothing from me lately. It's all been about Aspen. So.
I don't know. I bought you some beer when I was out there.
You did do that, and I do owe you some. I do owe you some when I get down there.
Yeah, we'll do it. Oh, I had no idea we'd run this long, but you're great stories, Jake. Thanks for taking time out tonight to share them.
It's my pleasure.
I do want to take a couple of minutes and welcome in our new sponsors that we're getting in the league. Stulio coming in with the Formula V's. I mean, that was a big deal. Greg Hubler was with me in the early SCCA-based Ray Esports, helped me with the finances, did some stuff there and raced. And he's gone on to do some other things, and he reached out. He's now their motorsports manager for Stulio and said, hey, we're looking to do something. Are you interested? And I said, sure, let's talk. So Greg and I had a talk, and they come on board for the second half of the Formula Fords. Alliance Autosport coming back for the Surfs prep shop there. They were with us for a couple of years. It's been a couple of years ago now. We went to the Indy runoffs, and that was 2021 maybe. But Scott Reddick was the one that founded them, and was at the runoffs and hosted a get together for all the esports guys. So that's where it started. And then unfortunately we lost Scott the following April, and Alliance had to back out and reorganize and everything. And their owner contacted me and says, let's get back and do this again. So they're back with the SRFs for the second half season with them. And like I said on the broadcast, Formula V's, it's the community that's taking care of that one. I mean, what can you say? It means so much to those guys. They're taking care of themselves and making sure of that. And Michelle doing a lot of work there with Jim. So hats off to those guys. But that's my shout out to our sponsors. We couldn't do the broadcast without them and without the members. So
absolutely,
again, like you were saying, it's just a great community. I'm so proud and honored to be part of it. Damn, A lot longer than I expected with not doing the highlights, but we had a lot of fun, some stories. Great to hear your story getting on track, Jake, and how things went for you, and look forward to following you down the road and see how you do.
Yeah, no, it was a blast. It was a blast being on screen with you guys. And I joked beforehand, this is something. When it started, the first thing in my mind was, I want to do something that's worth getting on there.
Yeah.
And this has been a blast. It truly has. To me, it means a lot just getting the chance to be on here. So thank you both for the opportunity. It's been a blast. I love talking to you guys.
Well,
Antonio's staying up 3:30 a.m. So
yeah, I know Antonio's over here 3:30 a.m. but glad to be. Yeah, man, I'm super proud to have you at least in slow motion racing, and we become closer because of that. So we need to get back out on track and do some more truck racing, I think, buddy. But,
100%. We need a livery. We need a team livery for the truck.
I will make a team livery. Now knowing how much fun we had, we're gonna have to get a team livery going. But yeah, thank you so much, Jake, for taking the time out to do this. And yeah, congrats, man, on your driver school and everything you did this weekend or last weekend, and can't wait to see what else comes from it. Oh my God, Stevie, do we have time for one more question?
Go for it.
I asked this question to anybody that has been, getting into the real life stuff, or really anybody that comes through this podcast. What is your main goal out of all of this? Do you just want this to be a for fun thing? You want to get your license and just say, hell yeah, look what I did? Or do you want to try to turn this into something bigger? Uh-oh.
I'm watching the chat, waiting.
Oh.
No.
For me, just real quick, do I aspire to make a career out of it? Not necessarily. I very much enjoy my day job as being an engineer. But my whole point with doing the podcast, talking with you guys, and kind of putting myself out there, and doing the YouTube stuff is to, if not make a living out of it, at least get to a point where, one or two people come to me and say, hey, we've got a seat, we need a driver. Are you interested? Kind of a thing.
Sure.
If it does spin out into somehow this becomes a career as late as I'm starting in the world of racing life.
Yeah.
Great, awesome. I'd love it. But for me, it's been a passion thing, and just starting out working crew to getting in the car, and then putting myself out there in a very uncomfortable position for myself. I don't normally do the whole YouTube video thing and whatnot, but just kind of stepping outside that comfort zone and seeing what I can make of it. To quote hockey, to quote the great one, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
I'll end it by saying I took a step out of that comfort zone and started SMB, and look where it is, and look what's happening with it now. So again, you won't know until you do it, man. So just keep following whatever the I almost said it. Keep following whatever the hell you want to do, and just keep with it, dude. I'm happy for you. I really am.
Thanks.
All right, let's wrap it up and get out of here.
Yep.
Appreciate you, Jake, taking time. Appreciate you coming in, Adam, doing all the wheels and knobs and everything that you do. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up episode 34, and we will have who we got? Oh, Eric Luke next week. So look forward to that. Yep.
See you guys next week.
All right, guys. See you next week.
appreciate your time, Frank. This gentleman has done wonders for sim racing, the real world racers that come into sim racing or go back and forth. Frank's responsible to get some guys out on track. So without further ado, Mr. Frank Swartz, Grass Paddock Motorsports, tell us what you do. What do we call this thing? The Raycing Line. I'm all out of sync. We got more people to deal with this week than what I'm used to. So thanks to my co-host Jason for joining us. Adam's back this week, and as you can see, we got a fourth sitting here. Megan Oversheet is already joining us to help us do some reviews and stuff. So thank you, Megan.
Let's go, Megan.
And help us. Good evening, Greg.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, we're just getting ready to review the spec racers, and since we had an announcer in the waiting room, we thought we'd go ahead and bring you in.
Well, thank you very much.
There he is.
Hey, we got him.
Hey, Jason, we got you this time.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
We won't talk about the other thing.
Our special guest for the evening, Mr. Dave Ogburn, and for Dave to introduce you to these two knuckleheads, you got. Great to see you, Thor. Welcome to the fourth chair and the podcast this week.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It feels surreal, like finally being able to talk to you guys. You know, I've been in this league for like what 2-3 years, and yeah, finally face to face.
Yes, our first guest.
Jeff.
I'm on the spot now, Jeff. So, welcome, Mr. Jeff Jacobson. Again. Great to have you here. Thanks for taking some time out to join us. We get to some fun part. That's why you're here, Jerry. This is our guest segment after the reviews. So thanks for sitting through with us. And
that was fun.
And
thanks.
Yeah, it's some good racing. So, well, first of all, we gotta say thank you to Trenton for taking time to come join us. He's one of the hardest working guys I know, and you can look there in the shop behind him and get an idea of what he does. So, as everybody sees, we've got Darren Ganji, and if you didn't know already, he is Mr. Sim Motion, where you can get all your sim rigs and equipment and everything. He's also the sponsor of that league we were just talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Sean Ambrose, we go back forever, back to the very early beginning days of the Weekend Warriors, when it was broadcasted on another broadcast, GSRC, I don't mind saying it. Very good to us. And Sean was one of the producers, announcers, always great to talk with.
So, Mr. Edgar Sancinelli, Weekend Warrior, Frito Sport Racing. I don't know what all you do, but great to have you join us tonight, Edgar.
Yes.
I'm not saying shit. Oh, see, I literally. Whatever, I give up.
There you go.
I know you've had a mute for me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, when you just for the views when Adam and you were there. I mean, it's
it's
jeez.
Oh yeah.